All right, welcome to The Explainer. So today we're going to talk about self-love, but probably not in the way you're used to hearing about it. We're not talking about bubble baths or just chanting affirmations in the mirror. We are talking about a practical, everyday standard that, believe it or not, quietly tells the world exactly how to treat you. Let's dive in.
This idea right here, it's the foundation for everything we're about to cover. Think about it for a second. You are constantly teaching people how to treat you. Not with what you say, but with what you do, what you accept, and how you value your own time and energy. You're basically creating an invisible rulebook for every single relationship in your life.
So, here's our roadmap. First, we'll unpack that invisible standard you're setting. Then, we're going to look at the validation trap that so many of us get stuck in. After that, we'll introduce you to your inner critic, and more importantly, how to deal with it. Then, we'll get into setting boundaries without guilt, and finally, we'll wrap up by learning how to reclaim small joys. Let's start with that standard.
Okay, first up, the invisible standard. The source material has this brilliant way of thinking about it. It's like you have an inner price tag. Now, this isn't about money, of course. It's all about your perceived value. And it's a standard that you set with your actions, telling people exactly how they're allowed to treat you.
You know, there are really two ways this whole silent teaching thing can go. When you have self-respect, you teach people that you're an equal, that your time and energy matter. But if you don't, you can accidentally teach people that it's okay to overlook you, to interrupt you, or even to step on you to get what they want. That's just how powerful this unspoken standard really is.
The source gives a perfect example of how this happens. So imagine a friend texts you late at night. The first time, you answer right away because, hey, you're just being nice, right? But pretty soon, that niceness becomes an expectation. Then one night, you don't reply for an hour, and suddenly you get a text that says, "Where were you?" You've accidentally taught them that you're available 24/7, and now you just feel drained and kind of resentful. And that feeling, that's your cue that a boundary is needed. And this slide just nails what boundaries are and what they're not. They are not giant walls that you build out of fear to keep everyone out. That just leads to isolation. No, they're much more like doors that you operate with self-respect. You decide who gets to come in, how long they stay, and when you need to close that door to rest and recharge. They don't isolate you, they protect you. So, if boundaries are just protective doors, why does it feel so guilty sometimes to close them? Well, that question leads us right into our next section, the validation trap. This is that deep-down need for other people's approval that makes us put what they think way ahead of what we actually need. First, let's get really clear on what self-worth is. It's the core belief that you have value just by being a human being. It's not tied to how productive you are, what you look like, or whether you're having a good day or a bad day. It's internal, it's stable, and it's always there no matter what. Now, validation, that's the total opposite. It's when you look for proof from the outside world that you're good enough. And sure, it feels good to get a compliment, but relying on it makes you emotionally fragile. It's literally like handing someone else the remote control for your own feelings. One mean comment, one bit of criticism, and they can change the channel on your mood, just like that. So the goal is to fully, truly internalize this powerful idea. Your worth is a given. It's non-negotiable. The source suggests you adopt this as a personal mantra. My worth is not up for discussion. Seriously, say it to yourself. That's how you take back the remote control for good. But, okay, even when we decide our worth is internal, there's often this other voice inside our own heads that just loves to argue, doesn't it? A voice that lives for external validation. Well, it's time to formally meet your inner critic. The source puts this perfectly. Your inner critic is basically a bully that lives in your head, rent-free. I mean, think about the things we say to ourselves. You're so stupid. You always mess things up. We would never, ever dream of saying that stuff to a friend. But for some reason, we let this internal dialogue run on a loop. So how do you deal with this bully? Well, you don't fight it with more anger. You actually disarm it with a simple question. The next time that negative voice pops up, just pause and ask it this. Is what you're saying a fact, or is it just fear talking? And this comparison is just brilliant. Fear is like a thick fog. It's just an opinion, a scary story that makes everything seem way bigger and more threatening than it really is. But facts are like a flashlight. They're just information, data points. They cut right through the fog and show you what's actually there. And this change in perspective is everything. See, when you make a mistake, your inner critic grabs it and says, "See, here's proof that you're a failure." But when you use the flashlight of facts, you can see the mistake for what it really is. It's just feedback. It's a stepping stone to help you learn, not some permanent brand on your identity. Once you start disarming that inner critic, something really powerful starts to happen. Setting a boundary stops feeling like this big, aggressive confrontation and starts feeling like a calm, simple act of self-respect. And that brings us right to our fourth section, setting boundaries without guilt. The source breaks this down into 4 really clear steps. First, just recognize it. Notice that feeling in your gut when your energy is draining away. That's your signal. Second, choose your phrase. Pick a simple, kind way to say no ahead of time. Third, state it. Say your no clearly, without a 10-minute long apology. And finally, and this is the hardest part, release the guilt. You have to consciously let it go and remind yourself, this isn't selfish, it's healthy. Saying no can feel so awkward, so here are some simple, clear sentences you can literally just borrow from the source. Notice how short they are, how kind yet firm. I'm not available this week. That's a full sentence. I need to rest tonight. No other reason required. And this right here is why keeping it simple is so crucial. The source points out that over-explaining is a total trap. It's a symptom of guilt. It's basically a coded way of saying, please don't be mad at me, please still like me. A simple, kind no is all that's needed. So, you've started to quiet that inner critic, you've set a few boundaries, you've created some actual space in your life. The big question is, what do you fill that space with? And that brings us to our final section, reclaiming small joys. So many of us fall into this perfectionism trap. We tell ourselves, okay, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, when I lose 10 pounds, when my life is perfect. But the problem, as the source points out, is that when never actually arrives. The finish line just keeps moving. Perfection is a myth that keeps happiness just out of reach, forever in the future.
The huge insight here is that happiness isn't a reward you get for being perfect. It's the fuel that helps you navigate your imperfect life. And it doesn't have to be some grand, expensive thing. It's found in the smallest moments. That first slow sip of coffee, the feeling of the sun on your face, the perfect song coming on right when you need it. These aren't luxuries, they're absolute necessities.
And to make room for these small joys, you have to let go of past mistakes. This line from the source just sums it up so beautifully. Yes, learn from what happened. That's how we get wiser. But carrying around the shame that comes with it, that's like lugging a heavy backpack around everywhere you go. Keep the lesson, but put down the shame.
So as we wrap up, it all comes back to this. Small, practical, real-world actions. You don't have to change your entire life by tomorrow. Just choose one thing. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What is one small upgrade you will choose for yourself this week? Maybe it's saying no just once without over-explaining. Maybe it's catching that inner critic and asking if it's fact or fear. Or maybe it's just taking 5 minutes to actually enjoy your coffee. The choice and the power is all yours.